Rooms.
All right, y'all. We are live. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning. Um, Glad y'all are up on this Sunday morning. Um, what is it? Daylight savings time has not happened in this part of Mexico because
Right.
there's some parts that went with the United States. There's some parts that don't do it at all, and then there's some parts that will do it on the 4th. So it's 10 a.m. for you on the East Coast, and for me, it's 8 a.m.
Okay.
So good morning, y'all. Um, Today, we are going to be talking about planning a move abroad, specifically planning a move to Mexico with Asia. Um, I have a series of videos that, if maybe Mexico is not your final destination, but you just kind of want, I don't know, you want more information. I have a series of videos I did called Expat 101 that just kind of covers um, the process and the things to think about. And when I can find a link to it, I'll drop a link in the chat. But we will go ahead and get started. I'm trying to look at my notes over here so I don't forget. If you are with us this morning, go ahead and say hello in the chat. If you are watching this on the, what do you call it? Replay, because I was like, repeat, that's not right. If you're watching this on the replay, welcome to you. You feel free to leave a comment. I am Adelia Borchade. I help Black women get their FU money together so they can move abroad, so they can travel, so they can do whatever it is they want to, because I am a firm believer in living life on your terms. And in order to do that, you got to have your money right. My guest today is Asia Rutledge of Doing Life Afraid. And she's going to talk to us about and share with us the process that she's been going through for her upcoming move to Mexico. Good morning, ladies. Good morning. Let me move this over here. Okay. Oh, I never mentioned this to you, but my oldest daughter's name is Asia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wasn't a very
More
common
of us
name.
out here.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a very common name when she was a kid. So,
Yeah.
okay, so you are getting ready to move to Mexico with your son, who
Yeah.
is 14 years old. Do you know where you're headed in Mexico?
Yeah, we're going to Puerto Vallarta.
Okay, all right, going to the beach. Now, um, I that sticks out to me because I'm not really a beach person. I'm very much a city person. So,
I'm not a beach person either, to be honest. But we could talk about that because part of planning your move is like, where are you going and why are you going, right? So I'm not a beach person either, but we lived in Guanajuato before, which is central Mexico. And we were so far from any water. And I was just like, I realized, because I believe moving abroad is just like a self reflection exercise, right? And I learned in that process that I'm not a beach person, like chill at the beach, but I need water. I need water in my vicinity. I need to get to it. I need to be or hear it. I need to be around it, but I'm not like, let's go to the beach today and sit at the beach. And so I was I realized that everywhere I had lived, there was access to water, and I would go when I needed to think or when I need to get away or when I needed, for me, it's like a healing thing. And so I was just like, we're just wherever we go next, we're doing a beach town because I need the water. So we're going to see how this goes. But the reason I picked Puerto Vallarta is because it's city enough,
Okay.
right? Because I can't do like small beach town. We'll be gone in 2 weeks.
There is something to be said about the conveniences of city life. I was in Chiapas in the far south of Mexico back in December because they have pretty much been, Mexico has a stoplight system about like pandemic safety and openness and all of that. And so Chiapas and Campeche have pretty much been green for the most part. There was a little bit of time when everything was crazy that they were yellow. So I went down there and, like, okay, I've been out all day. I'm back in the room and I'd like to order food for delivery. No, you can't do that. You can call and arrange to come pick it up, but nobody's delivering anything to you. And I was just like, how barbaric. I was really beside myself. And that just drove home the fact that, I like those city conveniences.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Campeche because I've been eyeing Campeche because it's been green for so long and it's on the beach and it's colonial, which I loved about GTO, but I kept looking at it and I'm like,
there's nobody there. That's why it's been green all along, because there's nobody there. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
No,
but if you're not somebody who is into it being like very quiet, very laid back, like nothing going on, I don't know that that's going to work well. All right. So, okay, you mentioned that y'all had been in Mexico before. So you'd been in Mexico, you went back to the United States, and how did you arrive at, you know what, we need to move back to Mexico?
Well, we never planned to come back to the States.
Okay.
So we came back to the States for like what was supposed to be like a 2-month visit, like a home-based visit. And I knew I didn't want to be in GTO anymore, but I didn't plan to stay in the States. And, life just happened. And it was like, I had hit a crunch point and it was like, okay, either you're going to go back or you have to get an apartment, because we were staying with my mom.
Yeah.
And, once you go get an apartment, because I refused to buy, like, I didn't want to do anything that was going to lock me in for real. Right. So I was like, once you get an apartment, I'm like, well, I'm here at least for the year, And I went ahead and did that, honestly, because I felt pressured that I had to make a decision. And so I always had told myself, when this is up, this is what we're doing. And then COVID. And my lease was up April 15th.
Oh, but you're not going anywhere.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I've never renewed a lease. I've been month to month ever since, because I'm like, when the window opens, I'm out of here. And the window, I felt like there was a window in November, and I let it pass. And now I was like, I just can't. I'm literally feel like I'm moving back to Mexico to save my life, legit. So I was like, I just can't keep doing this. I don't care what's going, we gotta go.
So how did you start? Like, did you start with, this is the date I want to be out of the United States, or did you start at some other situation?
That's a good question. I started at, okay, so I had, like I said, back in November, I'm like, here's the window. So I had gotten our visas in I think the end of October. And so that gave me a deadline, because as we know, Mexican consulates are very subjective. And I'm like, I'm not going to let this go out of expiration.
Yeah. Okay. Let me interrupt you right here. Okay. Because I assume this is a temporary residency visa. Okay. So to get a temporary or permanent residency visa for Mexico, you have to start the process outside of Mexico. And once you get the approval, you have 6 months from then to enter Mexico to start the second half. So if you got your visas in October, that started the clock ticking, and you had 6 months.
Exactly. So I think it was like the very last week of October or something. And so, so in my head, it was like, beginning of April, we got to go if we going. And so I lollygagged or this and that, whatever. And then when I happened to look at the visas again, and it like threw the date back in my head again, I was like, oh gosh, we got to go. So I picked the end of March, because I didn't want to get up to the day. Stuff can happen. So I picked the end of March, and we just been hustling it, because that's my deadline. Because the first time I went, they denied me. And so I was like, I'm not trying to mess with this again. Like, I want to go on this visa because I'm not traveling across the country to go to another consulate. So that's just been the push. Like, this is the date.
I used to live in Mexico in 2017, and in 2018, I had gotten a work visa that ended up expiring because I'd moved and I'd gone to Kuwait and I'd gone to China. And so after about 4 months in China, it was summer break, and on my to-do list was I need to get my Mexican residency because of that very thing. Like, the consulates are all subjective. And kind of arbitrary if they tell you no. Now, I'm not dog. I think residency in Mexico is actually fairly straightforward and fairly simple, but you just never know. So I was like, while I'm on vacation, let me go ahead and get this. And I'm so glad I did, because you fast forward a year, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And I did not have to go back to the United States because I was like, hey, Mexico can take me. I don't have to go back. So yeah, it's always, what is it they say? Don't put off today don't put tomorrow what you can do today. Yeah. That's okay. So so you started with the visas. What else? What was next in your process?
Figuring out where. Because at that time, like I said, I'm very COVID avoidant, right? So I'm not out here in these streets. I'm not doing, like, I'm in Atlanta right now. Atlanta's
my.
Like, so we not in these streets over here. We in the house. So for me, that was the big thing, because I'm not trying to go to Mexico and be in these streets. I'm trying to go to Mexico, get in my house and chill there. And so it's like, where can I go to Mexico, have the things I want, which was be able to walk to the beach, have the amenities, but it's not wilding out. It's not all these things, right? And so, and my big thing was, I'm not doing layovers. Like, I don't want to be no airport. Like, this isn't the time. And so at the time when I first started looking, only PDC, Playa del Carmen, Cancun, was nonstop from Atlanta. I kept looking for nonstop from Puerto Vallarta, and there was no nonstop. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to Playa del Carmen. I've been there several times. I'm like, it's fine, whatever. But what happened was more and more people started seeing that Mexico was open, and people was like wilding out in Playa del Carmen. And I'm like, this is not what I'm going here for. And I'm not comfortable if I'm just trying to go to the grocery store and it's tourists everywhere and they acting like nothing's happening and all this stuff. And then the other thing that I realized was I wasn't making any moves. And I'm very much a person who, when I make a decision, I make moves. And so I had to analyze that, like, why am I not making moves? And I finally realized I don't want to move to Playa del Carmen. So that took like a month or two for me to get that in my head and understand that. And then once I finally realized that, it was good, because then flights seemed to open up to Puerto Vallarta nonstop. And so I know a few people in Puerto Vallarta, and they had I still was like, yo, where can I go and get these things and this and that? And they'd just be like, if you don't quit playing around and get your butt in Puerto Vallarta, why are you acting like we don't have everything you're saying? And so one day, literally, somebody said that in a post, and then I'm like, but those beaches in PDC, like that turquoise water, and she's like, and she just starts dropping pictures. It just starts dropping pictures that she personally had taken of beaches, sunsets, this and that. And I'm looking, and I'm like, okay.
This can work
for real. And so then that day I started looking for real. And for me, a huge thing, especially because I have a child, is community. Community will keep me in the city, even if I'm kind of cool on the city, but we have community there, because moving abroad, you really need that community. And so for me with Puerto Vallarta, is like, I already have people on the ground. Like, these are people I knew when I lived back in GTO. So these aren't new relationships. And so I was like, it's already people on the ground here. And then I really just started looking at the city to figure out if they had all the things that I needed to be able to live and continue what I'm doing here. And they do. And so I was like, you know what? I'll take a chance. I mean, I moved to GTO with never having been there before. So I was like, we'll take a chance because I'm not doing no recon trips to go
Okay. And
explore.
I'm glad you said that, because I've seen in a couple of Facebook groups where people are like, "Oh no, you need to go before." And I think you can skip the exploratory trip if
Mm-hmm.
you are steadfast with your research and you
Yeah,
really do what you did, which
right.
is figure out, what is it that I want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just have no clue and there's not a pandemic going on, maybe you can go and visit places. And, if you choose wrong, you
You can
can
always move.
always go somewhere else. It's not
Yeah.
like you land in one place and that's it. I also want to back up a little bit to you and your listening to yourself
Intuition.
about Playa del Carmen,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a thing I like to talk about, because I think as women, we have been encouraged to ignore that
Yeah.
intuition, that internal voice. And so, like in your situation, you had chosen a city, but you weren't making any moves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're 100% right. The reason you weren't making those moves is because you didn't really want to go. But I don't think we're socialized to identify that, like,
We're not.
we're not.
No, we're not.
So I
That's
think
actually something I've been working heavily on in the last year. So like some stuff happened in my personal life with my family. And so it led down this series of events. And so one of the things that I've really been learning and working with other people is, you know what's best for you. And you need to start listening to it and trusting it. Because I was never taught that. I was taught the opposite, like heavily.
do the thing
So
you're supposed to do.
do the thing you're supposed to do, almost to the point of like abusive situations. So for me, I'm in my 40s and I'm just now learning that. So that was
Same
huge.
here. Same here.
So for me to be like, because I know myself, right? And I'm like, people like, when Asia says she's gonna do something, she's gonna do it. And I'm not doing anything. What is up with this? And finally I just had to admit it. You don't want to go to this daggone city. And so I was like, okay. And once I figured that out, then stuff started moving, because I started trying to look, where else would I go and what do they have? And when I started seeing that it had all the stuff that I wanted and looked for and stuff, I just kept moving forward. So you got to start trusting and listening to yourself. And I started with little simple things. People told me to start with little simple things, like when you say, I want to go lay down for 15 minutes, don't ignore it. Go lay down for 15 minutes. Like, it's real simple. I want to go for a walk this morning.
That
Go
doesn't
take that
sound
walk.
that doesn't sound like a big deal, but I can't tell you how many times I'll be sitting at the computer trying to work, but I'm tired.
Yep.
And I'm like, why are you doing this? Just go lay down,
Yep.
because you're not going to get any work done because you're too busy trying to fight sleep.
Yep. Just
Okay.
do it. Because the more you do it, the more you trust it, the more it happens for you. So
We have a question. Winter Hayes has a daughter that's 13 and wants to know, what are you doing about school for your 14-year-old?
school. Can we plug other stuff?
Yeah, no, of course.
Okay, so I did a whole session in the Exodus Summit. If you haven't heard of the Exodus Summit, there's a group on Facebook. Is it Exodus?
Yes, and in my notes, I had meant to mention, because
Okay.
that's how Asia and I became acquainted. We were
Yeah.
both speakers at the Exodus Summit, and Asia did an incredible session
Thank you.
on world schooling,
Yeah,
right?
world schooling. So that whole session is about schooling and world schooling. So you might want to check that out. But a short recap: we homeschooled before COVID. Like, this was our life before COVID. I had pulled my son out of school in 3rd grade. He's 14 now. And GTO was our whole first, like, let's see what world schooling is all about. So I'm very much of, when you leave the US, leave the US, in terms of like all the fake constructs, all the fake structure that we think we're supposed to do, and all the things. And so I believe world schooling, in terms, and that looks different for everybody, how it plays out. But for me, it was very much doing all the activities in the town, learning about what was right there in our face. Like Frida Kahlo was always there. Diego Rivera was always there. You know, there was museums to his birth home. And so we did that. We went and did that stuff. We learned in person. And I mean, he did do math. He had structured math. He had structured language arts, I believe. But the rest of it was in person. And I never pressured him on Spanish. I thought the boy didn't know Spanish. We came back for a visit. My uncle started speaking to him in Spanish, and my son is just responding. So, you know, my son though was a child in school where the teachers, you know, he don't ever listen. He don't ever do this. That structure didn't work for him. So I couldn't bring him home and put him in that same structure. So that's why world schooling for him is the best thing. So we've been homeschooling now. I guess we're in our 5th or 6th year. I don't know. The time just goes. But so that's what we do.
I can speak a little bit to the schooling situation right now on the ground in Mexico. Basically, no schools, very few schools are in person. Up until March 1st, nobody could be in person unless your state was on the green stoplight. And even there, the schools had to meet certain safety protocols. Depending on where you end up in Mexico, there will be international schools, which are going to be very pricey. You know, but the language of instruction will be English. There are a kind of a full range of private schools that could be bilingual, you know, like there's an assortment of programs, and there are public schools. Now, you know, it just depends where you are, whether or not the public schools will meet the needs of your kid. So that's
and you can do online or umbrella schools through the U.S. When we were doing world schooling in GTO, we were still under an umbrella school. So they helped me guide, like they helped me take what we were doing day to day and turn it into like geography, right? Like this is what he learned in geography this semester. So they helped me like translate it over. So you can always look into umbrella schools in the US or online schools in the US and bring that over too. Or you can create a curriculum. There's so many online programs or homeschool curriculums and all this kind of stuff that you can put together yourself and create a full curriculum for your child and it still be a really great education.
Because that's the thing. You have the freedom to do what's right for your particular child. You know, you don't have to put them in something that's regimented, that's not going to work for them. Yeah. We had another question from when we were talking about visas, and we mentioned that once you get your residency visa in the U.S., you have 6 months to get to Mexico. Does it matter where you enter? No. Now, I will say that for the second part of the process, this looks a little different now in the pandemic, and each city is a little different. Like here in Mexico City, they are now basically streamlined the process, and you can go from here is my pre-approval to them handing you your actual residency ID card in a day or two. That used to take a month.
Right.
But there are other cities where they have not streamlined their process. So where it doesn't matter where you enter, but when you do enter, they will give you 30 days. It's like if you've ever come to Mexico on a tourist visa, you know, they normally put 180 days. Well, when you show them the thing in your passport, they'll give you 30 days. And it's really up to you to choose where you want to do it, but they will ask for an address. So, you know, if it's not a place that has streamlined their process, make sure it's some place that you're going to be for a little while so that you can, if you have to make multiple trips or whatever. Then I have to enter Mexico from the US. Yes. Okay. All righty. Let me see what other questions we have in here. Uh,
Oh, thank you. Somebody says she's in her 40s. She looks very young. It's funny. I have a funny story. Every time we were in Mexico, well, actually traveling in general, but it would hit us in Mexico. The first time we went, we were going on a tour. We were going to cenote or something, and we come back to the bus early. And I'm sitting on the bus, and my son's like, "I'm gonna go get like something to drink because they always give you drinks on tours." And so he goes and he's like, "Can I get a drink for me and my mom?" And the guy's like, "Tu madre?" No, and I forget sister, but he's like, your sister. And he's like, no,
no.
mi madre. And so it's just like an ongoing joke now because no matter where we are, people think he's my brother. And so he thinks it's so funny. And he'll just start talking to me like he's my sister, right? Like he's my brother, like I'm his sister. I'm like, whatever, kid. But no, yeah. Well,
Okay.
you popped a question up.
Yeah, I think it was this one. Vina, no, oh, Vina is sharing that she has an 8-year-old. She's going to move to Mexico City in June. She's doing a online US based school. And was it 2 weeks ago? I spoke to Amanda. They moved to Leon, which
Leon, yeah.
is in the state of Guanajuato, and her daughter is doing, I think, K-12 online.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are a lot of
There are a lot of options.
options.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see if there are any other questions. Okay, I think so. Okay, all right. So we were talking about how you picked Puerto Vallarta,
Mm-hmm.
and you've not been there before, correct?
Nope.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay.
But I'm like that. Like some, everybody's not like I just go do. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm about to go do it, and we
Well,
just gonna see.
I think there are, the skills that you need.
Mm-hmm.
The skills to navigate a place that you probably already have from being a traveler,
Mm-hmm.
it's all the same.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's any different from one place to another. Now, is the intention right now to are you intend to be sedentary? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to
Yes,
be
that's
like a
it. We're not
nomad around?
nomadic. Mm-mm.
Okay.
We're staying at least through the next year and see what's going on with COVID. We're sitting. And that's why I did so much research. And I am a heavy researcher. So I was like there were weekends I wasn't doing anything but on my computer the entire day and
So
just researching.
talk about that research, because we hear that. Well, do your research. What did you
Mhm.
do?
So again, I started with what do I need? What do I need there? I need community. I need, like what you're saying, especially with COVID, delivery apps. I need one of the things I said, and I say it like this, and I don't literally, it's not literal, it's just a general idea. I need a Costco. I don't need a Costco. I don't shop at Costco. I need a Costco because meaning we're not going all the way Mexican, right? We're not going where we just no access to nothing else, right? So at least if you have a Costco, you have a certain kind of enough Americanism, a little bit, that kind of thing. And so I need a Costco. I need a beach. I need housing in a certain price range. And I'm very picky, so it has to be nice housing. I need to see what the kids' activities are there so my son can get involved in things. I need to, like I said, I feel like I'm literally moving to Mexico to save my life. So certain healthcare things that I had started doing here, like acupuncture and other kind of things, I need to make sure they have acupuncturists. I need to make sure they have really top-notch doctors in certain areas. So when I wrote down my list, then I would literally spend days maybe on one topic, right? So that I'm fully versed, fully knowledge. And then what I didn't know, then I didn't pop into a Facebook group. Y'all, I looked at this thing, I researched this thing. Anybody got any more information or hands-on information? Then you start connecting with people, right? You see similar people. You know who lives in what towns, and you start to ask them questions. Now, luckily I had done this before, so I knew people already and I could just hey, ping them. Hey, can you tell me this? Hey, can you tell me that? And so I do that. I pinged somebody last night. Hey, girl, let me ask you about this insurance. How does this work? And it was like 10 o'clock at night. But at this point, we're cool like that, right? So like the research is all encompassing. And I really say start with what's the important things to you that you can't do without. And then look and see, does the city have those things? Or if they have them, what quality of those things are they, right? They might have them. Like when we were in GTO, they had a movie theater, but it didn't speak English. So we drove an hour to Leon to go see Black Panther, right? And at that time, that was cool. So you got to see the level of what they have. They might have a movie theater, but it might not be in English, and you might want an English movie theater in town. So when you do all the research, you can find all that stuff. And one of the tricks that I do is I'll flip my stuff to Mexico internet. So I'll flip it to google.com.mx. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure. Yeah. And so then I'll start Googling in Mexico, because you're not going to get a lot. You'll get a lot in the US, but you're going to get more if you're Googling through Mexican Google. And then you use your computer or your, I use Chrome, your browser, to switch the language to find what you need.
This was my first time having an unfurnished apartment. And so trying to find things, but I could never, for a lot of things, I couldn't find the right word. So the trick I learned was you Google it in English, but then what it is in Spanish comes up. And then I can take that word in Spanish and then search on different websites and that sort of thing.
I did that last night.
Yeah. And it's growing my vocabulary slowly but surely. Now, so you're Googling things, you're searching things, you're getting into Facebook groups. Someone that I know in PV has a Facebook group specifically for Black women, and I'm going to drop that link right now. It's called Life Abroad in PV. It's in Puerto Vallarta. And if you are interested in a place that's got city, beach, mountains, all that good stuff, PV might be for you. We had a question about what do you do with your stuff, or what are you going to do with your stuff?
So the first time we stored it, this time I'm chucking it. This time I'm legit like, we're moving.
Okay, so why did you store it before?
Because so before, when I stored it, I was of the mindset that I was going to do like split. So like 6 months in the States, 6 months somewhere else. And I wasn't even sold on Mexico. It was just, I want to travel the world, but I want to have a home base. And so I had sold my house, and my intention was to get a smaller house in the city. So I stored enough stuff to furnish a smaller house. And so my intention was to come back and buy another house in Atlanta, and that would be like our home base, and I'd Airbnb it when we were gone, but then we had a house to come back to. But now I don't care about coming back to Atlanta. So I'm not going to spend my money storing stuff that we probably not going to come back for it. And, there's a little bit of things I want to keep, but I have a brother, I have a friend, I'll throw that stuff in their corner, but it's minor things. But yeah, we're not keeping this stuff this time, because the mentality is very different for me this time. We're moving.
You're moving.
Yeah.
And so you sold what was left. Have you finished that process?
No, we're in process. We're legit. Like somebody's like, can I come today? Don't come between 10 and 11.
Okay. All right. So so when you made the decision, you were like, I'm getting rid of this storage unit. How did you proceed from there? Was it immediately like, what can I give away?
So at first it was like, I want to make money, right, off my stuff. But then it quickly became, I just want this clear. It's not about money. I just need this stuff cleared out. And so, my son, this has been his schooling. My son has
great math lesson.
Exactly, because I'm working. So his schooling has been sorting through everything. What are you keeping? What are you not sure of that you need to check with me? And what do you know is trash? And then what we're keeping or what we're selling, you write the description, you write the catchy title, you figure out the price, you do this thing. So that's literally what my son's been doing as schooling, because it pulls in everything. And that's what I mean when you don't have to stick with the construct. There's ways to learn everything. So he's literally in charge of it. And he's like super excited because he has ownership over it. So he gets up every day, like, what area of the house am I working on today? Like, legit. And I'm like actually shocked, like, oh my goodness. So he's been pricing stuff. And he'll ask me, it's like, Mom, what do you think about this price? And I'm like, if you feel good about the price, post the price. So we selling the desk today for $10. Okay. So
because it's more important it be gone,
right,
than you recoup your money.
Exactly.
I will say that I think that that's one place people get hung up, because American culture is very consumer, because I didn't want to say materialistic, because it's not about that, but it is this sense of, well, I paid X dollars for this. I know it is worth. And something I learned a long time ago, things are only worth what people are willing to pay for them.
Yes.
Now, if you have a very long timeline, you can take your time and find the right customer who is going to pay your price. But if you need to go, like you said, it becomes an issue of, I need this stuff gone. And if $10 gets it out of the door, so be it.
It is. Yep. And I think it's about like what's important to you. It's about your priorities, right? Because you could be a stickler and stick to it, but then you might be at the end of like, I still got all this stuff and I don't know what to do with it, right? And so then that's why I said, seriously, moving and living abroad is a self-exploration exercise. And you learn about yourself. You learn what's important to you. You learn where you're struggling and limit yourself. And I mean, it's a whole thing.
Somebody asked about, where is this question? What are you gonna do mail forwarding?
Yeah.
Or how are you handling that?
So I did. I actually signed up last week for a mail forwarding service. I did one that has addresses in Atlanta because I don't feel like going through changing residency and all that. So I'm keeping one with Atlanta, and they get packages. So I can always have my brother pick something up if I needed to. But yeah, I did mail forwarding. So you find a service, it actually can become very overwhelming. There's so many out there, and then you think you find a good one, but they don't have an address in a certain city. And man, so I just picked, I actually went with Traveling Mailbox, I think. And then the very next day, somebody posted in a Facebook group, I've been using Traveling Mailbox for 6 years. They're amazing. I was like, great, thank you so much. And so, yeah, I set it up to forward my son's, anything my son might get, and he don't really get stuff, but I don't want to have to worry about, is there something we're missing? So stuff for my son, stuff for me, and stuff for my business. And I'm set up with the USPS, the mail forwarding to go to them. And then I'm also still personally going to go to my bank and all the important places and change the address with them directly versus waiting on the mail forwarding. So that's how I've done that one. And they'll scan it for you, and you have to check it, because some services will scan the envelope, but then included in the price, some will scan what's in the envelope, but then others will charge you to scan what's in the envelope. So you got to check how they set up their package.
And I will also say that, because I had a mail forwarding service for about a year, and I did not realize, because I didn't know that this was a thing, so like when I would be passing through the United States, I'd order all this stuff and have it there, and I'd be like, I'll go pick it up. Well, they would charge me storage for packages, not for letters, but for packages. And so I was like, oh, this isn't cool. So yeah, that's something, as if you're looking into that, look at, is the price include the contents of the envelope, or are they just scanning the outside, and then you have to tell them whether or not you want to see what's inside, and that's extra. And also, how do they handle packages? Are you being charged a certain amount for how much the package weighs, how long it stays there, what have you?
And also, I got a mail forwarding service, a mailbox that's close to my brother. So like I asked my brother, can you be my person? The first time was my mom, but things have happened. So it's my brother. And so I got it where it's convenient for him. So like what you're saying with the packaging and stuff, I don't want them charging me to store it. So I'm gonna ask him, can you go pick up this package? Right. So if you get a person, and there's a lot of reasons I do a person because I have a child. So for me, the person is all encompassing. So I'll just jump into this because people are with kids. My person is the person that if something were to happen to me, I'm in jail, I died, I'm in the hospital, I can't take care of my child, my person can come get my child. I get a letter, I create a letter, I put it in Spanish and English, I get it notarized. I have our copies of our birth certificates, our passports, everything. That person has a copy of that. We have a copy of it. My son knows where it's kept. So our emergency contacts, wherever we are, knows where they are. And that person can come get my son. If I was in the hospital, a lot of insurance will bring somebody down with you. That's my person who can come down. They can take him back. If I can't say, yeah, I know, I said this person could take my child, the letter says that. And then the person is my on the ground person. If I need something in the city, and that doesn't happen. It happened once when we were in GTO, but you never know. And so that person is like agreed to do something you might need them to do. Like my brother could pick up packages for me. So he's my person.
No, I'm really glad you mentioned that because people don't often think about that. And like, just last week on the podcast, I had talked to a probate lawyer and asked her like 50 million questions about wills because people are like, oh, I know I need a will, but they don't think about it. And the same thing is if you've got a minor child with you while you're living abroad, you need to make sure that you have outlined who is supposed to get them, who are they authorized to go with,
right.
All of that. So no, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Janelle had a question. What length of residency did you apply for? And did you have to provide the consulate with a permanent address in Mexico?
So actually, I was going to say something. I think it might be wrong. I think there's exceptions to this, but I was going to say everybody has to start with a temporary residency. But I think there are a few exceptions to that.
I know 3 years ago, if you met the monetary requirements, you could get permanent.
Okay.
It seems now they are more hesitant, but then again, it also depends on where you go. Because you may go to some place and they're handing them out like candy. But supposedly, if you meet the monetary requirement and you want permanent, you should be able to get it. But what I've been hearing is they've basically been giving everybody temporary, which is renewable.
So you start with a year.
Yeah.
You renew in a year. And then I think when you know more than me, but when you renew in a year, you can renew again for 3 years.
Yeah.
Then you can go for permanent.
Or you can choose to renew annually. But I don't know why anybody would do that because it's costing you more money. It's more hoops you got to jump through because, like how many people had their visas expiring and the pandemic started and they couldn't get into immigration, So if you can renew the second time for 3 years, it's more affordable. And even if you're not in Mexico, there's no requirement for how much time you have to be here. So I don't see any advantage to doing it 1 year at a time.
Yeah. And then she said, do you have to provide an
permanent
address?
Mexican address?
No, not when you first apply. I think that's the second part when you're in Mexico.
When you're in Mexico, they're not sending you mail. Everything you have to give
that.
Yeah, you have to give them an address, but they're not mailing your immigration documents. Everything you get that says yes, you've been approved or come get your card, they send that via email. So like I need to change my address because you are supposed to update them when you move. But so you come into Mexico, you're staying at an Airbnb, use the Airbnb address, no big deal. But when you figure out where you're going to be, you should go through the process of changing your address because as a non-citizen, you need to update them to where you are, but they're not sending you mail.
No.
So don't stress
Yeah.
about that.
And should we even talk about the mail system in Mexico?
Yeah, let's do that. Because if you are like me, who was completely green, I had traveled, but I'd never lived anywhere else. And I moved to Honduras and thought, oh, well, if I'm missing something, people can just mail it to me. And then I find out there is no postal system. Like, it does
No.
not exist. And I had no idea there were countries in this world that did not have postal services.
Yep.
Mexico has one,
Yeah, but
but
a friend of mine, somebody told her they were mailing her something. So we knew exactly when it had got into the mail. So we're timing this thing. So she actually did get it. Okay, so I want to say that's a caveat. She actually got it, but
okay.
it was a month in a week after the
That's
person.
not bad. By Mexican mail standards, that is not bad at all. Because there are some packages that just never come.
Don't go. Yeah, they don't arrive.
Somebody says, will the U.S. service forward your mail to Mexico instead of going through them? No, I do not believe you can put as your forwarding address. I don't think you can put a foreign address, but if you can, I wouldn't do it.
I get it. Yeah.
That's risky. That's something you got to keep in mind is Mexico has rules about what can come through the mail.
Mhm.
And they x-ray packages. And so like one that comes up all the time is somebody back in the States or Canada mail them their medication or mail them their vitamins. That is illegal. Yeah. And they're going to seize it and you will never get it back. They won't even send it back to the people who sent it in the first place. So you're just out that money. And there's a whole list of things that are not allowed to be mailed here. So I would not do that. That seems very, very risky if you ever want to see your actual mail. Somebody asked about your hair products plan, because I just did a video about what does Black hair care look like in Mexico. So they want to know, what are you going to do about your hair and your products?
So I'm going to I have to go to Sally's. I use like co-wash, a certain co-wash, and I'm gonna go stock up on the co-wash, but eventually I'm gonna run out. However, I figure if they had this in GTO, which is small, they're gonna have it in Puerto Vallarta. So they actually did have a ethnic hair care section, right? And I found products that worked. I enjoyed them. I actually found a product that I started using there that I kept looking for it here. So I found it there, but I continued using it here. So I'm not very concerned about my hair. I know a lot of people are, but I don't wear my hair naturally curly or anything. So I don't need a ton of that. I just need a good shampoo product that's not going to strip my hair and all this kind of stuff. I can see the bottle, but I can't think of the name that I used before that I really liked. So I'm just going to see what they have. I'm going to get myself launched and bring stuff with me, but then I'm going to see what they have and use it, because I'm not really concerned about it, but I know a lot of people are. But my sister, she had come with us for about a month, and she full head of curly hair. She uses all the things, and she actually ended up using the same brand that I had found, and she enjoyed it too. So I wouldn't say they don't have anything, right? Because they're not white.
No. And there are varying textures of hair in the population here.
Right.
So there are actually quite a few products that are labeled for curly hair that might work for somebody. Now,
Right.
is your hair relaxed?
No, it's naturally curly. I just straighten it. And I'm gonna have to figure that out in Puerto Vallarta
because you're gonna have humidity.
So talk to me in 3 months, and it might be a whole nother story, but we'll see.
Okay. Vina asks, can I legally bring vitamins in my suitcase? Yes, you can. You are allowed to bring your supply of your medications, your supplements, that sort of thing. The problem comes when people try to have it mailed to them. That is not allowed. I know prescription meds are only allowed to be mailed. and received by people who have a certain kind of permit. So like, this is random, but like, I think dog food is another thing that you're not supposed to bring in.
Yeah, I think you just bring enough for the dog on the flight.
Yes, you're only supposed to bring in a day. I have brought in a little more than that from time to time because I didn't know the rule. But I have also heard people say like, oh no, they went in my suitcase and I had to throw away the dog food. But medication, supplements in your personal possession, that's fine. Somebody wanted to know about health insurance.
Health insurance. That's a whole thing, right? So yeah, I started off in general looking at like US companies like Cigna Global, I think it's called, and some arm of Blue Cross Blue Shield and all. And I was just disgusted. I won't even front about it because the pricing, back to American consumerism, the pricing was American pricing. And it was just insane, the rate that they were charging me for Mexico. Like, I understand what Mexican healthcare costs. So if you're trying to tell me I have to pay $600 a month and I could go up the street and see the doctor for $25,
oh my gosh,
I'm not paying you this. Like, this is straight up American robbery, right? So then I understood, oh, they have brokers in Mexico for health insurance, and they will help you find a combination. It could be expat companies or local Mexican insurance, and they will get you quotes and all that kind of stuff. And then a final thing was somebody said, even with that, don't buy it in the US. Wait till you get there. And then you have the Mexican address, you have all the things, and then it's even cheaper. So so that's what I'll be doing. Somebody's going to refer their broker to me, and I'll be getting insurance as soon as we get on the ground. In the meantime, I did get traveler's insurance for the Gap. But we'll be getting, I looked at some Mexican companies before, also looked at some, they're not Mexican, but a lot of expats use these companies. So I have an idea of the rates, but I'll get it when I get there, basically.
I opted, well, because I haven't been in the US for quite a while. I knew I needed insurance when I was moving back here from China. And I was trying to kind of go between expat insurance versus local. And I have opted for a Mexican company. We will see the wisdom of that decision, you know, as the months progress. But affordability, definitely that. My one concern is, because it's a Mexican company and it is a Mexican policy, I'm not sure if I'll have to talk to customer service in Spanish or not.
That makes sense.
So we'll see how that goes. Is that your son? Tell him we said good morning.
Say good morning. Good
morning.
All right, we had another question when we're talking about mail carriers. Okay. There is like a Mexican postal system, just like there is USPS. But then we also have DHL. Like if you want to send something from the United States to Mexico, DHL is probably your best bet. They are the most dependable. There is FedEx, there is UPS, there is something like that that's Mexican called Estafeta, which I don't know if I've ever used them, but sending, like if someone in the US has your vitamins and they send them DHL, you are not going to get them unless somebody is sleeping on the job. Odds are when they get to customs, they're going to be x-rayed. They're going to say, do you have an import permit? Like, are you one of these people who's allowed to do this? And when you say no, they say, okay, we're going to destroy your package.
Because it's a law. It's not the carrier.
Yeah, it's not the carrier.
Law.
Now, the other thing to think about if you are sending something via mail, whether it is U.S. Postal Service or whoever, is that tariffs, taxes come into play. Mexico, it's been my experience that gets enforced a lot. I'm very leery about ordering things when a company says the customer is responsible for all, because how much is it?
Right. It'll turn into something huge.
And the DHL guy will come to you and say, okay, this is how much you need to pay before I can give you this package. And you have no way of knowing that. That's why if I need to order something, I will use Amazon, because Amazon will tell you, this is how much for shipping. This is how much for taxes. So
that's good to know.
Yeah, no. And if they have overestimated, they will refund your money. So, because that's my big fear, is ordering things and having them get stuck in customs, and I never get my package, and I'm out the money I spent. Yeah, that's a concern of mine. I think there was one other question.
Thank you, Courtney. I see Courtney's. It just sounds like Queen Babe.
Okay. Thought there was one more question here that I passed up earlier. Okay, I guess not. All right, so we talked about what you do with your stuff, or what you are doing with your stuff. Have you all nailed down a date? Because today is
we've got
March 21st. What's your date?
Our day is the 31st.
Okay, all right now. And so your son's getting stuff sold by then. And what have you found long-term housing in PV, or you're going to do that when you get there?
You know, the whole thing is don't get the housing until you get there. And I've always believed in that. But I found this house I fell in love with. And I was like, I could see myself in this house. I started seeing myself cooking in the house. And then I started weighing the cost of like the Airbnb versus like getting the Airbnb first, and then, you know, the whole thing. Well, you guys might not know. So paying for an Airbnb for a month and then having to pay to move into your house, where when I lived in GTO, that was easy because it's such a small town. They don't do deposits and they don't check nothing. Like, you want to move in tomorrow? Give me the money and we're good. But then going to Puerto Vallarta was so new for me. I'm like, wait, y'all want deposits and y'all want contracts, and wait, what? And so they're very much like the structure. And so when I started thinking about all that, when I had seen this house that I loved anyway, I started, like I said, I'm a researcher. So I'm on Google Maps with the streets and the picture, not the picture, but you actually walking down the street. I'm doing that in the whole neighborhood. I'm doing, you know, I'm asking the people I know on the ground, where is this? What is this? I'm getting video calls with the realtor. I'm doing all the things. So I actually do have a house. But I also have come to terms with myself of, if we get there and it's not the best fit, or it's not I'm okay losing my money and getting something else. I made that choice. That's a risk I'm taking, and I'm okay with doing that. So we do have a house.
Okay, so tell us about the house. Like, how many bedrooms?
Yeah, so we have a 4-bedroom house, and 2-bath. It's got an outdoor yard, and it's actually got an outdoor like entertainment area. So like an outdoor kitchen and a table and dining room chairs, and it's beautiful. And which is why I jumped on it, because one of the things I saw in Puerto Vallarta was they don't have the best furnishing taste.
That's not limited to Puerto Vallarta.
I ain't had that problem. Well, when you look in Playa del Carmen, all those places look gorgeous.
I think it's who they're marketing to, maybe.
Okay. It might be, because I was like, what is happening in this city? These furnishings are horrendous. And like, I see the house and I like the house, but I do not like the furniture. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So when I found the house and it's like gorgeous all around, I'm like, no, let me get this house, because I'm so picky. I feel like it'll take me forever to find what I wanted. So I just got it. So it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, 2 full bathrooms, no tub. I'm so sad, but that's pretty standard.
That's Mexico.
Yeah. But the outdoor space is what I'm like seriously geeked about. Beautiful from the outside. So we'll see.
Are you comfortable sharing what it costs?
Yeah, so it's 800.
800.
Yeah, so when I was in GTO, my rent was $200. And I told my son, I was like, we don't gotta go that low. And we loved that place. That place was brand new. It was like a little townhouse. It was super cute. We loved it, but it was small. And, and I was like, we're moving. We don't have to, I want to save money, but we don't have to be like minimalists.
Well,
right?
okay. A 4-bedroom, 2-bath house with a nice entertainment area in Atlanta is not going to be $800.
No, I'm saving money.
So you're saving money, but it does bring up a point. Like I talk about how expensive Mexico City is.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting a house like that for $800. If you're in a nice area, you might not get a 2-bedroom apartment for that.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives y'all, the people that are watching this, an idea of the range. I say all the time that I could get so much more for my money if I didn't live in Mexico City.
Yeah.
It's
a trade-off. It's what you're willing to do. Right. And so that's why I say start with that list. What are you willing to pay? What do you want for that money that you're going to pay? And then that will help dictate you too, because I'm telling you that little $200 in GTO was everything. And it had two bathrooms, which people kept telling me that was so rare. Like we don't ever really have 2 bathrooms. And it was like townhouse setup. It was really cute, but it was really small.
Yeah.
And but it was great for the time being. But I'm like, I want a real house. I want a nice house, especially with COVID. I know I'm going to be there. Like, I want a house I'm going to sit in. Some days I'm not leaving it. And I want to enjoy it.
So Francis wants to know, what site did you use to find that house?
What are those sites? So I actually found the house. The first house I found was, I actually found it on Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
But there are some Mexican sites.
I was going to say, I have a video on finding an apartment here, but in the description, you can find a list of like the main apartment house, because you can find apartments and houses on there. And I'll drop a link in here. Maybe I will, if I can figure out how to do this. I'll drop a link to that, but like Inmuebles 24, Viva Nuncios, heck, Craigslist is a thing. Facebook Marketplace.
And you can connect with a realtor. Sometimes you can connect with a realtor. I say have somebody refer you a realtor. Don't get no random realtor. And they'll work with you too if you want to go that route. So those are some options.
Okay.
But generally, I wouldn't get a house first. Generally, that's not how I roll.
Well, okay. You've got people on the ground. This is you've kind of checked all the boxes to do the best job you possibly can to make sure that the house is what it is and that it is as advertised. But like you said, you also are realistic and holding on to the idea that, hey, we could get up there, we could show up and it not be what we thought it was going to be. And so I think that's important, that you have to plan for that as well. Even renting an Airbnb, because I did that the first time I moved here, because I was like, I got to save money. I booked for a month because I wanted the cheaper rate. Yeah. And then I got there and was like, oh, and I opted to stay because I did not want to lose my money. Now, in the intervening years, I'm very much like, if I roll up and it's not what I want, I'm out. But that time I opted to stay, but I learned a lot of lessons from that experience about how to really look at Airbnb photos and the
Yes.
questions I should have asked,
Yep.
and that sort of thing. So no, you've
Yeah.
got to kind of have your backup plan, your what if this does not go the way that I'm expecting it to.
And one thing I will say also, we kind of had a crazy Airbnb experience. Just one time, no, 2 times we did. But Mexico has some really cute boutique hotels. And so if you find yourself with an Airbnb experience that's just, you don't have to go to the big brands. Look for some of these really, I'm talking about really cute boutique hotels, and the rate is really good. Like we had a Airbnb experience that wasn't great in Playa del Carmen, and we ended up going to a boutique hotel, and we were so happy that the Airbnb sucked because we loved that hotel. And then we had experience in Querétaro, where the Airbnb, the lady said it was in the city. I asked all the questions, and we felt like we was driving to the desert. Like, where are you taking us? When we were already canceling before we had got out of the car, because it was just like you lied. You straight up lied. And so we ended up finding a cute boutique hotel there. And it was like, these boutique hotels are gorgeous. So those are always options. They're not pricey. It's not like going to the Marriott or something, but they have everything you need. They're probably cuter depending on what your style is.
Yeah.
And they're awesome.
Do you have a car that you need to get rid of?
Yeah.
So what's the plan there?
So the plan there is one of the things I've done or doing in the last year is learning how not to stress myself out, not to be in fight or flight mode about everything and all this kind of stuff. So my intention is to sell my car, but if I just don't get to it, my friend said I could leave my car with her. And then when I get to Mexico, I can do all the things I need to do to handle the car. So I will leave her as power of attorney over the car. If there's any, for transfer of paperwork, if there was anything need to go somewhere, like into an office to do something. But I do intend to sell it. But if not, that's my backup plan. And it's just going to be what it's going to be. One of these things is I've learned that you're not going to get all the boxes on your checklist checked off before you go. It's just too much. Like stuff keeps coming up. It's so much. You're changing your whole life, right? And at some point, you just got to be okay with like, okay, if this don't happen the way I think, or if this doesn't happen, what is the plan then? So that's the plan for the car then is I'm going to get it cleaned. I'm going to do all these things, and I'm going to put in her driveway, give her the keys, give her the power of attorney. And I'll still do all the things because luckily these days with the internet, you can do a lot of stuff online. So I'll still do all the stuff, but that's where it'll sit while I'm working to get it sold.
Okay.
If that's the route.
If it comes to that. So you've figured out your mail situation. You've got a plan for the car. You're selling things. You've looked at healthcare options. What did y'all decide to do with the dog?
Oh, she's coming.
Okay. Because I thought I saw a post where it was like, oh, we're going to have to leave her behind.
No, the post was, how am I going to figure this out? Do I have to drive to Mexico? Like, what am I about to do? Because my son, if I had to leave the dog to move to Mexico, my son, like, it just wouldn't happen. He'd be like, that'd be one of those, like.
That would be a deal breaker for him.
Yeah. So no, the dog is coming, but she won't get in this daggone carrier. So we're working on that. But she's a small, big dog. So she's in the small category, but she's on the higher scale of the small category. So what I was running into was she fits the weight, but she's tall.
My dog is tall too.
Okay. And so
she has very long legs for a schnauzer.
Exactly. And so I end up finding, like, it's so funny, the stuff you find on the internet. So I end up finding like this cult site of like dog owners that travel with their dogs. And there's like a cult site around a certain kind of travel bag. And so this is the travel bag they use for their bigger, small dogs. And there's all these pictures and all this information about if you have a flight attendant or a gate agent that wants to challenge you, this is what you say. This is what you do. This is what you know. And at worst, break down crying. I'm moving. Like, you're going to stop my whole move for a dog bag? Like,
Yeah, no. I have found that if you can let your eyes get a little watery
Yes.
and you're like, I'm so stressed out, they will usually back up. The flip side of that is I like to play dumb foreigner when I'm in other countries, like, oh, it'll be like the first class only line, but I need to get my boarding pass and I don't want to wait. I'll just go and play like I have no idea what y'all are talking about and just keep pointing at my stuff. So yeah, I feel them on that.
Yeah, so she's coming. Actually, back when I was looking before, because she actually was part of the reason that I took so long to decide I was coming back. I was scared to, when we left the first time, I left her with my friend, same friend who I could leave my car with. So I knew if we were coming back, my friend wasn't gonna take my dog again. So I was very scared about I just didn't understand the process. It intimidated me. So I'm taking her, and when I was doing it before, there was all the stuff you had to do in the US first. You got to mail this to the thing 10 days within the time and all the stuff, but you don't have to do that anymore. That's not a thing anymore. So I was like, okay, well, that's great. That makes that part easy. So I'm taking her to the vet just so they can do a final thing. I already paid for, we have a plan. So I already paid for it. I'm going to get all her paperwork. And then I'm going to bring her down there with us, and she just needs to start getting this back.
Well, you may have to just shove her in there
I
know. Because the first bag, my dog was not enthusiastic about it. And I upgraded the bag because she kind of destroyed that one because she just was not a fan. And so we would play games, like in the bag, out the bag. And, so now we have a flight tomorrow, actually, and I haven't taken her bag out yet because I know as soon as I sit it down, she's going to jump in it. Like, okay, where are we going?
Right. I'm ready. Yeah, that's how she is with stuff for the car. So if I get certain things out for the car, she's like, yes, we got to get in the car. Let's roll. That's how I want her to be about the bag. So hopefully
it'll come, because once she figures out that the bag means you don't get left, she'll be like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah,
I can get with that. Now, somebody did ask about like work.
Yeah.
And you mentioned very briefly your business, but let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So that was actually part of the reason why I did not come back. When I came back to the US and was wanting to leave again, that was actually one of the things that was like, I don't think I can go back right now. Because at that time I had sold my house, and I was working, but I was living off the sale money from my house too. Because I was working like a 20-hour job. It was paying me like $20 an hour, getting my foot in the door. And in GTO, that was sustaining us. But it was like my US debt that I was using my savings to pay off. Not pay off, but to pay the monthly things. So if I had not had the debt and we were just living in GTO, the money that I was making was sustaining me. So I wasn't certain of myself that I could make money on my own. Like it's a process for people, right? I had been in corporate America the whole time. I didn't have confidence in what I was doing at the time. And I went through a lot of iterations. So at this point though, I've been working for myself for 4 years now. And so I'm of the mindset, what, a client left, I get a new one tomorrow. Like I don't have no issue anymore around, can I sustain myself? So I have my own consulting firm. I do project management and systems integration for like small businesses and startups and stuff. So that's what I do. But I also have a blog. I have the blog. And my intention is to really monetize that blog when we get back to Mexico, like for real. I've been studying. I know a lot of bloggers. I know a lot of bloggers make a lot of money. I've been studying what they do, watching it. And I understand. I just don't have the time here, right? You're stressed in the States stress you out. So I intend to really get on the ball with it when I get there. But I have my consulting firm, and I work about 25 hours a week, and I make full-time US money. So I'm gonna keep that up. Some clients know I'm moving to Mexico, others don't. They just think I'm taking a vacation week and they'll see me in a new environment when I get there. But some clients are like, you're moving to Mexico? I'm coming to visit you, whatever. So that's how I sustain myself. But I believe that everybody has skills, whether you whether they're skills you got in corporate or they're just hobby skills that you can take and transition. There's a ton of work from home websites out here that post jobs for that kind of stuff. And now we're in COVID where it's a thing. So it's so many options out here to make money. One of the things that makes me really sad when I see people about moving abroad and they let the money stop them, they let the money part stop them. And I think it's because we've been so caught in things are supposed to go this way. You're supposed to go to school, then you graduate, then you get a job, then you get a house. Like we're so stuck in this streamlined way of thinking that we're not able to see all the things once we could step out the box that are available to us to figure out how to make money for ourselves. And so that's why I was really grateful for having the backup of the house money in GTO, because it was like, well, if this don't pan out or whatever, I can have the freedom to explore and figure out what is it that I want to do. But everybody can do something. And the thing that I love about Mexico, one of the things, because I love a lot of things about Mexico, is because your dollar goes so far, you're not having to make the same kind of money. And that's
to maintain the lifestyle,
right,
or to live the lifestyle that you want.
Right.
It has a very different price tag than what that lifestyle would cost you in the US.
Exactly. Yep. And I don't think people understand that part. And so it's like, yeah, I'm upgrading my lifestyle and I'm lowering my expenses in this move. So can keep that in mind. You don't have to make the same amount of money. You just got to make some money.
Okay. And you were able to use your business as the basis for your visa?
Mm-hmm. I did. I used my business as the basis for my visa. So have your business paperwork, like have it ready. So I knew that I always had wanted to go back. And so I had read about the visa process, like probably when I first came back to the US. And so I knew that I need to have 6 months of statements. I had got my business stuff together so that whenever I was ready to go for residency, I already had that stuff together. So I had gotten I think sometimes they say don't have a PO box on it, have an actual address on your statements. You want to have at least 6 to 12 months, depending on your visa, of statements and all this stuff. So I knew where to funnel my money to. I knew how to have the address set up, all that stuff, so that whenever I was ready to go get this visa, I didn't have to worry about, dang, I haven't been doing this on this account for 6 months. So yeah, I used my business. I showed my Georgia business registry paper, all that kind of stuff to trace it back to, this is my business. I own it. This is my bank account for my business. And so that's what I used to go back. I just saw a question that made me laugh.
Okay. No, we're going to get to that question. Did you apply at the consulate in Atlanta?
Yeah, I did. And they denied me at
I was
first.
going to say, was this the one that denied you?
They denied me.
And did you go back to Atlanta, or did you go somewhere else?
Groups are so great, right? Because I literally was like, they denied me. Where else can I go that's easy? But it's COVID. And like I said, I'm COVID averse. So I'm not trying to travel everywhere. And so I was like, well, maybe I can go to Austin and then hop to Mexico, right? So I'm not doing this back and forth thing. And this woman was like, I went to Atlanta. It was super easy. I'm like, it wasn't easy for me. That's not what happened for me. And she was like, she straight up said, she said, I saw where they keep those records. It's not organized. You probably could go back and they wouldn't even know you was there before. So she said, I suggest you go back. And what happened was, this actually had messed me up. Well, I thought it was a mess up, but it was a come up. When I registered for the appointment the first time, I did it for me because nobody told me my son had to have his own appointment. So
yeah, he can't come in on your appointment.
Yeah. So if you want to get your family, if you have minors, every single person has to have their own appointment. The child can't ride on the parent's appointment. So by the time I was trying to get him in on like a time right below mine, but so much time had passed that there were no times available. So his appointment was a week after mine. So it actually worked out for our good because I got denied on mine, But then I already had the appointment for him. And so by that time I had regrouped, and the lady was like, go back, and like, no, go back. And so I changed the paperwork structure. I was like, I'm going to this website and I'm literally reading it and doing this, reading it and doing this, right? So I changed how I presented it. I changed all this stuff. And I went back and I was like, she was like, you have to have a different appointment. I said, yeah, we came last week. And I got denied. I told her, I said, I got denied, but it was a different lady. And I didn't feel like the lady knew what she was doing either. And so I was like, this is weird. Like, what's she doing?
That's fair, because I'm not sure how those people get that position. But in my experience, I would say they don't always seem like they know what's going on.
No, she didn't know. When I got the second lady and she knew what she was doing, it was completely different than what the first lady had done. So I was convinced that that lady did not have a clue what she was, because she told me that it was law. A certain thing was law. And I was like, well, if it's law, why wouldn't it be on your website? Which is why I went back to the website and was reading line for line. And then when I went back the second time, she was like, can I have you this? Can I have it? Okay, come back at 1 o'clock. I was like, yes.
And that's important to know.
Keep trying at the same one if you have to.
Yes, because I got denied this last time when I went to Houston, which I had gone before, and I was like, it's the same stuff. And they were like, well, no, because you don't have a pension. And I was like, I'm never going to have a pension. Right. That's why I'm pointing to the paperwork and I'm showing them that it's like this or this. And they're like, no, you have to have both. And I was so fit to be tied, but haha, the joke's on them, because I had already booked a backup appointment in New Orleans. So, because I was not going to leave empty-handed. Right. I was going to get residency somewhere. But this just goes to show y'all, as you're encountering working with the people at the consulates, don't take it personal. It's really not about you. It's some disorganization or some failure to properly interpret things on their end. It's really not about you.
Yep. And I will also say this, really let those connections you make in those Facebook groups be gold, because I had people telling me, oh no, I know Sonia Diaz, and she knows Sonia Diaz is a person who handles immigration in Mexico in certain cities. And they were like, she can put you in touch with the guy at the New Orleans consulate and he can look over your stuff before you even get there. So that was my backup plan. I had reached out to her, then reached out to the dude, and he was like, sure, so you can find ways. Right. She was like, no, that's nonsense. That's not what should have happened. Here's my guy. Contact him. So if you don't have any people you can ask this stuff and these people know these things, you think that's the end.
Yep.
But I knew people who had been through this process, who did this thing. And I'm like, this is not supposed to be how it's supposed to go, is it? They're like, no, call Sonia, do this thing, so it gives you more options. Don't do it alone.
Now, didn't you published a workbook for people who are moving abroad?
Yes.
The Path to Freedom?
Yes. Okay. It is a literal workbook guide that will walk you through every step. It walks you through 11 key points of figuring out how to move abroad, packing up your stuff, forming community, schooling for your kids, how to get work, all those kind of things. And it's an actual workbook. So it's literally, I ask these questions at the end of each section. And so you can really think through and sit down and talk with your family and figure out what the plan is for that section. So if you're actually working the workbook as you go, you will come out at the end with an actual plan for you moving abroad. You'll know exactly what you're doing when you move abroad. It's not some, up in the air thought thing. It's an actual, like, I'm coming out at the end of the day with
so if this is sounding, and I know it can be overwhelming, like how do I do this? Asia's put it together for you very simply. You walk through the book. And so I put a link to your workbook as well as your blog.
Another link.
Okay. Is that not a great one?
It's directly on the blog.
Okay. Did you send it to me in the chat?
In the private
okay,
chat?
I got it. I got it. I'm getting the hang of this. Okay, here we go. This links to the shop that's on her blog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we had another question. Was it hard to tell your family that you were moving?
So I'll give you before and after. Before, I told my family, it wasn't hard because I'm that person, like, this is what I'm doing. I really don't care what y'all think about it. But what happened was my mother kept sending me articles about cartel shootings and stuff, like while I'm there. And so I was just like, finally, it got so bad. I was like, what is your intention in doing this? Right. And you have to deal with everybody's, why are you going to do that? You think that's okay? What about your son? Doesn't he need? So this time, I ain't told nobody. Nobody. I literally just told my uncle last night for a specific reason that I ended up telling him. But I don't have the bandwidth to manage everybody's comments, everybody's energy, everybody's concerns. And I'm very much of the mindset of, if you haven't done this yourself, you don't get to chime in. And so at this point, literally nobody in my family knows except my uncle that I
was going to
told.
say your brother knows.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my brother, my immediate family. My son's over here. I'm about to say Uncle knows. My son is listening. My brother knows. My youngest sister knows. So my siblings, that's my crew. They know. But I'm talking about outside of them. My mom don't know. My siblings know. And nobody else knows except my uncle. And my aunt, she's like talking about doing all this stuff. See me in 2 weeks with a picture at the beach. Like, I don't have time for the commentary. I really don't. Like, I'm a single mom. I have a business. I'm trying to get this house cleared out. I'm trying to manage my nerves. Even though I've done it before, I still have nerves. And you never doing this before, miss me with it. So instead of trying to do all that, they just don't know. I do have an aunt in the Exodus group, so she about to know. But she already was like in my corner with that one, hence her being in the Exodus group, because she's trying to go to Portugal. But outside of that, they don't know. Because the thing is, you think people will be so happy for you, and really it brings up people's fears, and it brings up their own, like, what haven't they done in life that they wish they had? And they don't see it that way. So they reflect it back on you, but it's really their junk. And I just don't have time for it. I'm not in the space for it this time.
Oh, well, we could very much unpack that, kind of going back to this, how we, especially women, have been conditioned, we're supposed to take in other people's whatever, their opinions, their thoughts, like we need them to approve the move we're making, which is not true.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about, your mom sending those articles. Like, what was the goal there? Because, is that coming from a place of, I am concerned for your safety and I want to make sure you know, or is that like, I'm trying to frighten you enough that you come to your senses and you come home?
And it's like, if you frightened for my safety, say you frightened for my safety. Like, don't send me these random articles. And I'm not dumb. Like, I am highly intelligent and I have my child with me.
Like, so would you put him at risk?
Exactly. You don't think I've thoroughly researched. So how about while you're researching these cartel articles, go research the top safest cities in Mexico and you'll see GTO is on the list. Like, I know what I'm doing. So, it's miss me with it. Like, I just don't have the time for it. Everybody live their life and I'm gonna live mine. And I'm not here asking y'all to cheer it on or anything. But it's so funny because then when you do it and they see you, they're like, oh my God, I wish we should do something like that. Because I have two aunts, one she don't know. The other one is in the Exodus group. And when I first did it, they were like, what? That's crazy, this and that. And then with Trump, we need to figure out where we're going, Israel. Are you doing any more recon trips? Like, you need to let us know where we should go. Whole attitude changed. So when they see you do the stuff, they change. But it's like, to get there, I'm not here to drag you to get there. I'm just going to live my life.
Yeah.
And I don't want all that with it.
Exactly.
So I ain't told anybody.
So y'all are a little bit over a week away.
Yeah.
So how are you planning out this last week?
You know what? It's so crazy. I just feel so unorganized. So ultimately, this last week is like project empty, right? Like, let's get everything out. Let's get everything sold. We're trying to eat down the food. I'm not trying not to go buy new food and all that kind of stuff. I honestly still haven't figured out the part of like getting out of here and where we're staying for somebody to take us to the airport the next day.
Mhm.
But it's probably gonna be my brother or my friend. Um, and that's really it. I told my son we need to start taking out the suitcases because we have piles of what we're taking. We're gonna start taking out the suitcases and actually putting the stuff in the
Yeah,
suitcases.
because I suspect there still will be some further culling in that because I did
Mhm.
something similar. I was working with piles, and then when I actually start putting things in the suitcase, I was like, "Oh, this weighs too much. Uh, we're going to have to reevaluate some life choices here."
Yeah.
Now, what is the goal as far as luggage? Like, how many bags are y'all trying to bring?
So the first time we went, we literally had one carry-on and one book bag each. And that teach you a whole bunch about life. Like I learned a lot. It was great. Like it was amazing. But we're moving. So I bought more luggage. And at this point, we have the option of up to 8 bags. So,
Total?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
And which we can do because we did the whole one carry-on thing. So I know we can do it. Um, I'm hoping we don't even do that many, but that's what we have. And I'm just gonna it's a whole bunch of stuff I don't want. Like I'm very simple. I want certain clothes, and that even gets minimized because it's not winter where I'm going, right? A lot of my clothes are very much winter-ish clothes, fall, winter. And there's certain books, like I had a massive book collection I've been carrying with me for 20 years. And when I sold my house, I got rid of so many of them. Like I could do it on a Kindle. And we had been
Mhm.
Kindling it while we were there before. But I'm like, I miss my books. So certain books that I know that I want to hold on to and keep and feel in touch, I have been buying again. So I have a pile of books that I'm like, these books come in regardless. So I'm gonna split them out in
I was gonna
between
say disperse
luggage.
them across the
Yeah.
bags.
But there's not much in like my kitchen. Like I've heard people packing pot sets and all. I'm not doing all that.
Well, I will tell you, I am thoroughly disappointed with the quality
I
of
heard
cookware.
that.
Now, IKEA is doing mail like online.
Oh,
The
really?
physical store was supposed to open in Mexico City this past fall, but of course the
Mhm.
pandemic delayed that. Then it was supposed to open in January, but we were in lockdown. So y- I don't know if they deliver to PV yet,
Mhm.
but I will say I was thoroughly disappointed in the quality of cookware and the price. So,
Now
if
you
I
don't have me reevaluating my cookware life.
if I had some pots to bring, I would have brought them. But I found a pass, and I'm not a cook. Let's not get
Mhm.
that confused. But I did find a passable set on Mercado Libre, but it took work. It
Mhm.
took a lot of work for me to
Mhm.
find that. So um,
Maybe I'm gonna
appliances,
reevaluate.
appliances, like I made a special trip. Well, on my trip back to the US to vote, I brought a Ninja blender
We
because
are doing our smoothie blender.
I didn't want to pay 3 times as
Mhm.
much to buy it here.
Mhm.
And knives are supposed to be a big thing.
Mm.
I own one knife, so I don't know. I don't cook.
We are doing our smoothie blender. For us, more is gonna be like we have our books. We have like 10 movies, but you know they're like DVDs, so you can condense that. So yeah, we're not. One of the things that I loved when I moved to Mexico the first time that I learned was how to detach from stuff. And so I really am not tied to a lot of this stuff. And I
Mhm.
really haven't accumulated anything new in this time frame, because I always knew I wasn't trying to stay here like that. So the stuff part is really minimal. So we'll get what we can. One of the things I hear people say a lot, and this is what I'm focusing on, bring the things that make you feel like home.
Yes.
So pictures or, things like that. So that's the stuff I'm honing in. Like there's a throw that I have. I'm going to bring my throw, stuff like that makes me feel like home, that reminds me of this or that. That's the stuff I'm really focusing on. We have a great smoothie blender. We love it. So we were like definitely bringing that. But outside of that, it's not a ton of like, I've just got to have this. We collect board games. We have a ton of board games. So we went through that. What board games do we want to keep? And then we're taking them out and just putting the contents in baggies, like big frozen zip instead of like the boxes, So we're finding a way to condense the things we do want to bring. But I'm not tied to a bunch of like, I gotta have all my stuff that I have here. I don't need all the stuff. I want to start new. I want to start new. I want this to be a new thing for me. And I believe in like releasing and letting go of the old. And so this is part of that for me. But I'm glad you said that about the cookware, because I got some bomb cookware.
Well, and my friend who is a chef says this to you, that she recommends you bring them. I mean, you can get quality stuff here, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay a lot for it.
I have a top-notch stainless steel.
Okay, so then you might want to figure out if you can make that work. Are you bringing sheets?
Yes,
okay, that's a good move.
So
if you want nice cotton sheets, bring those, because those are hard to find. Now, did you contemplate shipping anything here? Because that's a question I see asked a lot. Like, how can I ship this, or what should I ship? I'm not a fan of that
until I saw people asking it, and I was like, "Oh, that's a thing." But for me, no. Like I said, I was very much like, we're coming on one carry-on. Like, so it never occurred to me to be packing up a whole house and shipping it to Mexico. I personally love Mexico. Their art, their this, their that. Like, if I'm going to Mexico, I don't want to bring all my American stuff. I want to make my house be my Mexican house, right? Like, I'm just very much open to culture and learning and acclimating where I am, right? Like one of the things that I really focus on in the book is I forget what I call them, but it's either like somebody who is just trying to come to the city and be on the outside, the outskirts, and just still be very American, or somebody who's trying to integrate. And I call the person an integrator, but I can't remember what I call the other person. And I'm very much an integrator. And I believe that in terms of what you bring into your house, how you decorate it, all kinds of things. Now, of course, I'm Black. I got Black stuff. I'm gonna bring my Black stuff. But there's stuff that I see art in Mexico that I love.
Yeah.
And so I want to get it if I can. So I don't want to bring a whole house that's already full with U.S. stuff, and then I don't have space or I got to figure out, where I'm gonna put it or how I'm gonna get rid of this to bring this in. Like, I don't want to bring all that stuff. I'm not shipping a thing.
And there's for me, when I first moved to Honduras, the people I worked for shipped some things, like a couple of boxes. And I learned very quickly that was a mistake. The vast majority of my stuff arrived damaged, and it was damaged before it even left the US. So I'm not even gonna blame Honduras for that. But it just reset my thinking that I will pay to check an extra bag or two if it is something that I think is important. So I talk about basically my life fits into 3 bags. So I check an extra bag just so I can have fabric and a sewing machine, because that's something I've
heard you say that.
So, but you've got to weigh the cost of like all this stuff that I want to bring. Is it worth the cost of shipping it versus what I paid for it? Like, or if it's a sentimental attachment, then yes, I understand that. But just bringing it because I've amassed this stuff and I want to keep it. But sometimes people see starting over as a negative thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've lost something. It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity. Courtney asked about sheet sizes. Mexican beds are not the same size as American beds, but there's matrimonial, which is kind of like a full. It's a little smaller, and then there's queen, but I don't think a Mexican queen is the same size as an American queen. You can Google the numbers, but it just depends on the bed that they have at the place.
Yeah, but you can fit your sheets on certain beds.
Yes.
Like it won't be perfect.
No, but it'll work.
Yeah.
And so like I didn't know what kind of beds I thought I was going to have a furnished apartment. So I didn't even think of that. I ended up having to get an unfurnished apartment for the reason you said earlier. The furniture choices that a lot of, aesthetically, the places that had stuff I like, I couldn't afford, or I wouldn't pay that. And then I am a minimalist. So, and I don't think Mexican culture embraces minimalism because it seems to be what is the biggest piece of furniture we can buy and how many of those can we fit into the place. And I have found that because one place I did find, and I was like, well, I don't need that, that, and that. And they were like, well, the owner doesn't have anywhere else to store it. So it stays here. So yeah, so that's why I ended up with a unfurnished apartment. That wasn't my plan. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, in the comments, we've got a lot of people wishing you well and telling you congratulations and that they're happy for you. If we've been here, oh my gosh, an hour and 40 minutes. So if anybody has a last minute question for Asia, drop that.
Answer this last one.
Okay.
Being a researcher, do you find at some point you have to just make a decision and research more as needed? Yes, because you can get stuck in analysis paralysis and just keep, you could research forever. So at some point, yes, you do have whether it's give yourself a deadline, whether it's enough points, whatever you make for you. Like my whole thing was like, this weekend, I'm going to research this thing and then I'm done with this. Like I'm not revisiting this one again. So yeah, because otherwise you could sit there for days, especially, I don't think you realize the fear it brings up, all the anxiety that might come up, even if you're all the way down for it. Right. Like that's one of the things I've had with my friend who I can leave my car with. She said, you done this before. What you scared about? And I'm like, that doesn't mean I don't have anxieties and fears. Like it's a new town. I'm leaving what I know again. Like all this stuff still comes up. So that stuff can keep you just still researching. So definitely just at some point, you just got to be like, I'm making a decision and I'm rolling with it.
I think that's a good place for us to end. In the comments, and I'll do this after YouTube processes the video, I'll place the links to Asia's blog and to her workbook, as well as to the Exodus Summit, because if you have not seen that, you need to. If you are contemplating a move abroad and you've got lots of questions about a whole host of topics, because like I mentioned, both Asia and I were speakers, but there were so many speakers on so many different topics on so many different locations. Maybe Mexico is not the place for you. I will put those links in the description as well. And if y'all, I don't know if this is a good time. This started at about 10 a.m. Eastern. I don't know, on a Sunday. I don't know if that's a good time for y'all. Let me know. And until next time, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.